The communalist Sinhalese, along with the Jayawardene government, planned to conduct a major communal riot against the Tamils. Full-scale war erupts. 1983. Military domination of Jaffna intensified. The Liberation Tigers attacked the army. 13 soldiers were killed. Using this as a pretext, ministers of the Lankan government, Sinhala fundamentalists and Sinhala thugs got together to let loose violence against Tamils on a massive scale. July 23rd saw the beginning of the new rampage against Tamils known as Black July.
It was very, very crowded. It was burning everywhere, and the whole traffic was blocked. So we just were standing there and saw people running around the cars, and suddenly they came to the car in front of us, and I could see there were about 10-15 people inside, and these people must have been Tamils. So the car were taken aside, and they put petrol, gasoline over the car, and it starts burning. And they also blocked the door so the people couldn't get out.
What did the police and the military do to stop this?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing?
No.
They just looked at it?
Mm-hmm.
Were you personally afraid?
Of course.
In two separate incidents in a maximum security prison, 53 Tamil prisoners were massacred.
வெலிக்கடை ஜெயிலில் குட்டிமணி ஜெகன் தங்கத்துரிய கொண்டாங்களெல்லாம் அது 25ஆம் தேதி. இப்போ இந்த 26ஆம் தேதி ஒன்றும் நடக்க இல்லை, சைலண்டாக இருந்தவங்க. 27ஆம் தேதி நாங்கள் இருந்த பக்கத்துக்கு வந்தாங்க. நாங்கள் ஒரு 8-9 பேர் வயது போனாக்கள், டாக்டர் இவர், மற்றது இவர் ஃபாதர்ஸ் சின்னராசா ஆந்தவர், எல்லாரும் ஒரு 9 பேர் ஒரு ரூமில் இருந்தாங்க. பெரிய ரூமில் 40 feet வைட், ஒரு 60 feet இது, அதில் இருந்த நாங்கள். அப்போ முதல் நாளே இவர் டாக்டர் தர்மலிங்கம், அவருக்கு 75 வயது, அவர் எங்களுக்கு சொல்லி போட்டார், ஆரம் வந்து இதை உடைச்சி உள்ளுக்குங்களை சண்டை பிடிக்க கொல்லுறதுக்கு வந்தால் நாங்கள் சண்டை பிடிச்சி சாகிறதல்லாது கும்பிட்டு மண்டாடி சாப்பிடப்பா என்று சொல்லி போட்டேன். அப்போ இவங்க வந்து எங்கட இதை பூட்டி கிடக்கு, அந்த வாட்சர் கொடுக்க இல்லை, அவன் கொண்டு போயிட்டான் கையை வேணுமண்டி. இவே அந்த லொக்கை அடிக்கணும் அது உடையதில்லை. அப்போ இவர் எங்கள்கிட்ட டாக்டர் ராஜசுந்தரம், அவருக்கு சிங்களம் நல்லா தெரியும், ஃப்ளூவெண்ட்டாக பேசுவேன். அவர் போய் இவங்களுக்கு கிட்ட நின்று, அடே எங்களோட எந்த சண்டைக்கு வாரீங்க, நாங்கள் ஒருத்தரையும் அடிக்க இல்லை, ஒரு குற்றமும் செய்ய இல்லை, நாங்கள் எங்களோட வேலையை செய்து கொண்டு இருந்தோம், ஆனால் ஈழத்துக்கு நாங்கள் சப்போர்ட்டான், நாங்கள் ஒரு தொந்தரவும் செய்ய இல்லை, ஏந்தாங்க கொண்டு இருக்க அந்த லொக் உடைஞ்சிது, அந்த டோர் ஓப்பன் பண்ணிச்சுது. அதுக்குள்ளால் டாக்டரை எடுத்துறாங்க வெளியே, இழுத்து போட்டு அதுலேயே ஒரு மண்டையில் அடி, அதுலேயே விழுந்து செத்து போனேன் டாக்டர் ராஜசுந்தரம். அதுதான் அவற்றை இது. அதுக்கு பிறகு உள்ளுக்கு வந்தாங்க. இவங்கள் போய் அந்த தூர கோர்னரில் இருந்து AK-47 ரெண்டையும் கிளிக்குன்னு அடித்து ஆயத்தப்படுத்துகிறாங்க எங்களை சுடுகிறதுக்கு. இதில் 8 பேர் இருக்கிறான், அதில் முன்னில் நான் நிற்கிறேன், நான் தான் இப்படி நிற்கிறேன். அப்போ என்ற மனத்தில் ஒரு எண்ணம் வருகுது, இனி இதுதான் கடைசி. சில நேரம் ஒரு முறை நல்ல விட்டால் 2 முறை சுடுவாங்க, அதுக்கு பிறகு எல்லாம் முடிஞ்சுது. அந்த நேரத்தில் என் மைண்டில் வர எண்ணம் என்ன தெரியுமா, இப்படி சாகிறது தான் நல்ல. எல்லாரும் சொல்லுவாங்க தேசத்துக்காக உயிரை கொடுத்தவங்க.
This year, Tamil people across the world mark the 39th anniversary of Black July. In July 1983, the Sri Lankan state premeditated a week of anti-Tamil pogroms and violent riots against the Tamil people. From July 23rd to July 30th, voter registration lists were used to identify Tamil families to torch their homes. All traffic was checked, and any Tamils were caught were killed, maimed, or burnt alive. Tamil motorists were dragged out of their vehicles and killed while others were drenched with petrol and set alight. Tamil shops were burnt down. Women were raped. And more than 150,000 Tamils became displaced. The memory of the Black July is etched in the minds of the Tamil people and their family.
I am not worried about the opinion of the Jaffna people, now we cannot think of them. Not about their lives or their opinion, the more you put pressure in the north, the happier the Sinhala people will be here. Really, if I starve the Tamils out, the Sinhala people will be happy. President Jayawardena. Daily Telegraph. July 11th, 1983.
In the long history of Sri Lanka, there have been difficult periods. There have been murders, there have been assassinations, there have been riots, there have been good deeds and bad deeds. Last July, we had one of those bad periods. But in time to come, it will be forgotten. I see in one of your newspapers there's an advertisement in which some people are trying to make us remember that day. It was a fatal day. Several people were killed. It was not done by the government, it was done by a gang of hooligans.
In 1983, Sri Lanka was rocked by anti-Tamil riots. We were lucky. When the mobs came, our Sinhalese neighbours took us in and sheltered us. But children have their own way of knowing what is going on. Amidst the smoke and chaos, I remember seeing the adults cry and knowing in my heart that something terrifying was going on. Like hundreds of thousands of other Tamil Sri Lankans, our family had to leave our home in search of a more peaceful life. We were some of the lucky ones. We had the option and ability to leave, but we will never forget all those who weren't able to. Those lives that were lost in the 30-year war that tore Sri Lanka apart. Growing up with war changes how you see the world. It has helped me understand and value peace and to think about what peace actually means. It made me realise that who we elect as our politicians really does matter. For so many millions of people around the world, the politicians they elect can mean the difference between war and peace, poverty or prosperity. With our suitcases in hand, our family travelled across the world. We first landed in Canada, then travelled once more, making our permanent home here in Melbourne. This city and country welcomed us with open arms. Thank you.
I'm so proud of my Tamil heritage, and I look for every opportunity to represent our community and remember our history for the decades to come. I'll never forget Black July 1983. I was quite young. We got up for the day and our family set about our normal activities, going to school and work and setting off into different directions for the day. It happened to be that day that my sister and I weren't able to go to school, so we went and stayed with my auntie and my cousin. Partway through the day, I remember my auntie getting a distressing phone call. I could see the look on her face when she was told by her friend that we needed to leave because the houses around us were on fire. Very soon after, my auntie's friend came to pick us up. We were bundled into the car and off we went to, where we were going. What I do remember about that trip, though, was as we were driving both sides of the road, the houses were on fire. And as a kid, you might not know what's going on, but when the adults around you are so distressed and start to cry, you know that something is seriously wrong. And there began our journey of the next few days and weeks seeking harbour and shelter with people who would look after us, like thousands of other Tamils who had to find shelter and safety. That began the 30-year civil conflict that we know killed thousands of Tamils, oppressed minorities and displaced hundreds of thousands of Tamils right across the world. And we think deeply about the people who remained. My grandparents stayed for many years after, were part of the displacements and told harrowing stories of having to escape the violence and conflict and horror. I now live in Melbourne. I'm a member of the Victorian Parliament, and I remember the lessons of that time and what happened to our people every single day that I get off to work. I know that it's really important that we keep working towards peace and democracy and integrity in our governments, because when that goes wrong, when our governments fail, we see what happens and our societies collapse.